Hi everyone, in this long overdue review I want to show you one of my favorite modern lenses. As you may know, I'm a big fan of vintage lenses, and I even started a website dedicated to vintage lenses for video use. So why do I like this 85mm so much? Well, to start with, it has a lot of features I like in vintage lenses, like smooth focusing ring with hard stops and manual aperture adjustment ring, which allows the lens to be used with various mount cameras with just a simple adapter. What's even more impressive though is that this SAMYANG also features optics that hold their own against much more expensive modern Canon L and Zeiss lenses. There's no doubt that this lens is very impressive optically. Firstly, it's very sharp, even wide open. In fact, it's one of the sharpest lenses I've ever used myself. When I use it on something like Canon 5D, sharpness is so crisp, it almost looks like pick and feature, and definitely helps determine where the critical focus is. It's also a very fast lens at f1.4, which means two things: amazing looking bokeh and killer low light performance. It picks up any available light so well, as you can see in these night shots, which I shot with Canon 5D Mark II at a fairly reasonable sensitivity, no higher than 1280 ISO. This lens definitely has a very contemporary cinematic look and holds the contrast very well even in challenging lighting conditions, which is something that a lot of vintage lenses often struggle with. While I often prefer the lower contrast dreamy look produced by some of the vintage lenses, certain projects require a clean, crispy look, which SAMYANG is perfect for. So before I show you a bit more test footage that I shot for this review, I want to quickly touch upon the build quality and handling. The lens feels pretty solid, and while it's not an absolute tank like some vintage lenses are, the build quality is close to that of Canon L series lenses. The focusing ring is actually much smoother than on any Canon L lenses that I used to own myself, and the hard stops at each end of the focusing range ensure that focusing marks on your follow focus won't shift out of place like they often do with Canon L lenses. The focusing travel is about 140 degrees, which is very convenient for manual focusing. And did I mention that this happens to be one of the most affordable lenses at such spec? With all these features, great optical performance, and such an affordable price, there is very little to complain about. But if I am to be picky though, the close focusing distance of 1 meter makes it very difficult to get any close-ups, especially with a full frame camera. With crop sensor cameras, especially with micro four thirds or super 16, you can still get very close. At the end of the day, I can definitely recommend this lens for video use. For those of you using follow focuses, a slightly more expensive cine version might be even a better choice. So before I leave you with some more test footage, I just want to give a personal shout out to Steve from Jam Media Co for letting me borrow his lens for this review, and to Elad Barry for asking me to do this review on multiple occasions. Hope you enjoyed this review guys, and I'll leave you with some more footage I shot with the SAMYANG 85mm lens.